So today we're going to go over what happens after you bought your first compound bow. So this is a pretty standard kind of setup a lot of people would start with into compound archery. So you've got your bow, your peep sight, D-loop, arrow rest, pin sight and stabilizer. So with a setup like what we've got here, a lot of people ask kind of what to do as far as maintenance and looking after the bow. First rule with a bow like this and with any bow is when you pull the bow back, if it's designed to use a release aid, always use a release aid. So don't test it by kind of pulling it back with your fingers like that. What'll happen is because your cam has a very small track for the string to sit in here, if you pull it back with your fingers and twist the bowstring kind of left or right, you can actually pull that straight off of this cam and will derail the bow, which means you've got to take it back into a shop to be fixed. So always use a release aid. If it has a loop like this on the string, never pull it back with your fingers. Very obvious one, but one that people still seem to run into issues with is never fire the bow without an arrow. So if you pull this bow back and let it go without an arrow in the bow, all the energy that would have gone into that arrow is going straight back into your brand new bow. So in very rare cases, the bow will survive. Most of the cases you'll break a limb, warp a cam, or break a bowstring. So we never ever fire the bow without an arrow. This is why it can be good to keep them away from your friends. We have a lot of cases of repairing bows where friends have pulled back and let go without an arrow. Easy way of stopping that when you're keeping this bow in storage is just chuck a little cable tie between your bowstring and the cables so someone can't actually pull it back. As far as maintenance goes on the bow, you can use a bit of string wax on the bow strings just to keep them from kind of getting fluffy. There's not really a whole lot other than that you need to do except for change the strings out every now and then, make sure all the screws and stuff on the bow are tight as well. And now we're going to go through how to get it set up and the adjustments you'll make to the bow. So now we're going to start shooting our bow and firing a few arrows with it. So one of the things that's assumed here is that you've gone into an archery shop and had this properly set up for your draw length and the draw weight. If this is your first bow, highly do not recommend buying online. A lot of shops are going to charge you to set up the bow, which is fair enough because it's their time to put into a bow purchased from elsewhere. Definitely buy from an archery shop so it's all set up. There's a few things that are important here: your draw length and your draw weight and the initial setup of the sight. So we're assuming that this has already been done at the shop you purchased it from. So we're going to have a look at our sight. So you can see on this sight here, there's a number of little pins. Each of these pins corresponds to a different distance. This will not be set when you buy the bow. This is something you have to go out and get for yourself because everyone's a little bit different with the bow set up, the height, the weight they're pulling, and all those variables. So normally, this is like on a 5-pin sight like this one, you might have a 20 pin, 30, 40, 50, 60. Or you might have 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So you might have every 5 meters depending how many pins are in there and your shooting capability. So we're at 18 meters now. We're just going to shoot a few arrows downrange, see where our group is, and then we'll run through how to adjust this sight. So now we've got a group of arrows in the target. We can see our group is a little bit high and a little bit to the right. So whenever you're moving a sight for archery, you're moving it in the direction that the arrows are hitting. So we're going to want to adjust this sight high and to the right. So the way we'll do that, get a set of Allen keys, they're very useful when you're setting up your bow. We're going to put an Allen key into this screw here and loosen that off. That will allow us to slide the whole housing the sight up. So what we've done there is loosen that screw and move this housing up. Now we're going to move it a little bit to the right. Just going to loosen this screw here on the top of the sight. We're going to move it a little bit to the right. Lock it back down. You'll see on this sight there's quite a few lines and like indicators along the back of vertical lines and horizontal lines. You can use those to kind of adjust the sight a bit more finely and get your adjustments in order. So that should move our arrows down closer to the middle. Once we've got that dialed in, we'll then repeat the process with our longer pins. You can also adjust the pins rather than the housing by using an Allen key along the side of the sight in here. So the last thing we're going to look at adjusting is our draw weight. So our draw weight is a physical weight when we draw back the bow, how heavy it feels in our release device. So the way that's adjusted is by these bolts on the top and on the bottom of the bow. You'll see on this bow in particular, we're actually able to see the amount of thread that's coming out of the riser. This is really, really useful, because if you're not sure how many turns out the bow can go, this thread is a good indicator. If you have a bow where you wind the threads all the way out and there's not enough thread left, your limbs will actually come out of the pocket, which is not good for the bow or anyone nearby. So if you're not sure how to do this, go back to your shop, let them help you adjust it. The simple way to do this is again using our Allen keys. If you want to go up in poundage, you'll put your Allen key into here, give it one turn clockwise. If you want to go down, give it a turn anti-clockwise. The thing to remember is whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. There's a measurement called tiller, which is a distance from your limb back to the string. If one limb is heavier than the other limb, your arrow is going to be coming out on angles and it's not going to be uniform to the bowstring. Easy way to measure this is if you run an arrow where your limbs meet the riser, back to the string, kind of put your fingers on the string there to measure that gap. Do the same on the bottom. If they line up, then you know both limbs are the same. The other thing you can do is put a little line with a Sharpie on this bolt and on the bottom bolt, so that when you turn it, you can see which way the line was pointing to start with, and then kind of get it back to that line so you can bring it back to the original setting. Again, if you're not sure how to make any of these adjustments, head back to the shop you bought it from. If this is your first bow, don't buy it online. Make sure you go into a shop and let them help you set the bow up. If you've got any questions, you can head to elizararchery.com.